I am continuing my reading. What I'm doing in this series is to read through the entire standard works of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. This consists of the Bible, the Book of Mormon, the Doctrine and Covenants, and the Pearl of Great Price. I am reading in a chronological order of events, not according to publication or volume, so I will be skipping around a bit as I move along. So we are continuing with Alma. Last chapter we read about the initial rebellion of Amlici. He tries to be king. He gets a very large following. Thousands of people are joining his faction. When the vote comes against them, they separate themselves anyways, appoint Amlici king, and then go to war with the Nephites and are defeated. It's not a sound defeating. It's not a destruction. There were 12,000 killed of Amlici's men, and there were 5,000 killed of the Nephites. So the Nephites had a definite victory, but it came at cost. It was not a resounding victory. But the Amlicites do flee. The Nephites have made camp. That's where we left off. We pick this up now. Chapter 2, verse 21. And Alma sent spies to follow the remnant of the Amlicites, that he might know of their plans and their plots, whereby he might guard himself against them, that he might preserve his people from being destroyed. Now those whom he had sent out to watch the camp of the Amlicites were called Zeram, and Amnor, and Manti, and Limher. These were they who went out with their men to watch the camp of the Amlicites. And it came to pass that on the morrow they returned into the camp of the Nephites in great haste, being greatly astonished and struck with much fear, saying, Behold, we followed the camp of the Amlicites, and to our great astonishment, in the land of Minon, above the land of Zarahemla, in the course of the land of Nephi, we saw a numerous host of Lamanites, and behold, the Amlicites have joined them. And they are upon our brethren in that land, and they are fleeing before them with their flocks and their wives and their children toward our city. And except we make haste, they obtain possession of our city, and our fathers and our wives and our children be slain. And it came to pass that the people of Nephi took their tents and departed out of the valley of Gideon towards their city, which was the city of Zarahemla. And behold, as they were crossing the river Sidon, the Lamanites and the Amlicites, being a numerous host, as it were as the sands of the sea, came upon them to destroy them. Nevertheless, the Nephites, being strengthened by the hand of the Lord, having prayed mightily to him that he would deliver them out of the hands of their enemies, therefore the Lord did hear their cries, and did strengthen them, and the Lamanites and the Amlicites did fall before them. And it came to pass that Alma fought with Amlici with the sword, face to face, and they did contend mightily one with another. And it came to pass that Alma, being a man of God, being exercised with much faith, cried, saying, O Lord, have mercy and spare my life, that I may be an instrument in thy hands to save and preserve this people. Now when Alma had said these words, he contended again with Amlici, and he was strengthened insomuch that he slew Amlici with the sword. And he also contended with the king of the Lamanites. But the king of the Lamanites fled back from before Alma, and sent his guards to contend with them. And he also contended with the king of the Lamanites. But the king of the Lamanites fled back from before Alma, and sent his guards to contend with Alma. But Alma with his guards contended with the guards of the king of the Lamanites, until he slew and drove them back. And thus he cleared the ground, or rather the bank which was on the west of the river Sidon, throwing the bodies of the Lamanites who had been slain into the waters of Sidon, that thereby his people might have room to cross and contend with the Lamanites and the Amlicites on the west side of the river Sidon. And it came to pass that when they had all crossed the river Sidon, that the Lamanites and the Amlicites began to flee before them, notwithstanding they were so numerous that they could not be numbered. And they fled before the Nephites towards the wilderness which was west and north, away beyond the borders of the land. And the Nephites did pursue them with their might, and did slay them. Yea, they were met on every hand, and slain and driven, until they were scattered on the west and on the north, until they had reached the wilderness which was called Hermounts. And it was that part of the wilderness which was infested by wild and ravenous beasts. And it came to pass that many died in the wilderness of their wounds, and were devoured by those beasts. And also the vultures of the air, and their bones have been found, and have been heaped up on the earth. So now here we have a great battle. And I love some of the details we get here. If you pay close attention to things, you can see how this is playing out. So first of all, he sends these 4 men with their men. It's not just the 4. They probably are the commanders of like 10. That's the usual division in the scriptures, is you have commanders of 10, commanders of 50, commanders of hundreds, something like that. So these are probably commanders of 10. So we have 40 men going out, and they're following the camp of the Amlicites. Now the initial battle with the Amlicites was on the east side of the river Sidon, on the east of Zarahemla. They chase the Amlicites out, probably southeast, and then they camp out in the valley of Gideon. While they're camping out there, the Amlicites circled around to the west, and they join an army of the Lamanites, and they start attacking the people in the west, and they make their way almost to the city of Zarahemla. And that's when Alma, the spies come back, tell Alma what's going on, and instead of circling around like Amlicite did, Alma heads straight across the River Sidon. He's going to cross right over to head him off. When he gets there, they are already on that near that port on the River Sidon, and Alma contends both with Amlici and the king of the Lamanites on the shores of the river. Because it says it is after he kills Amlici, he then fights with the king of the Lamanites. The king of the Lamanites falls back and sends his guards. They drive the guards back, and that's when they gain a foothold on the west side of the river. So they're fighting on the banks, and they drive the king, they kill Amlici, drive the king back, make way, and the rest of the Nephite army follows them across the river. Once they are all there, the Lamanites, seeing that now they have to fight the entire army of the Nephites. So far it's just been this front, the vanguard, this front part. It's just been Alma. Once the entire Nephite army is there, the Lamanites run. I think the Lamanites remember some of the other fights they've had with the Nephites in the past. They don't want to fight a full army, and so they flee. A couple other things you note here is that Amlici was actually winning. Alma was being beat back by Amlici. And then Alma says his prayer, his very brief prayer, and he is strengthened by God and drives Amlici back, killing him. And on a final note, it says here that they are fighting the king of the Lamanites. This can't be the king over all the land of the Lamanites. It's not Lamoni's father, because Lamoni's father was converted 3 years ago and is in the land of Nephi, ministering to his people and helping to spread the gospel along with the sons of Mosiah. It's not Lamoni. It is almost certainly not the king of Medoni. Can't remember his name, but we see here this is a king in the west. Just like Lamoni was a king in the land of Ishmael, and there was a king in the land of Medoni, and then he had a king over all the land. This is another king in a land in the west. So while the Lamanites down in the south, in Ishmael and Nephi and Medoni, and these areas are being converted, they're being baptized, and we have all the sons of Mosiah and their brethren traveling around preaching, there are other groups of Lamanites, other kings that are still hostile to the Nephites. And this is one of them. Amlici joins them, and they have this big battle. So once again, we see the feudal nature of the Lamanites, that even though the high king has declared religious freedom, the local kings still have great influence and power in their areas. This king is not acting under the orders of Lamoni's father. He's acting on his own, and he is fighting the Nephites. And the king that is over all the Lamanites, Lamoni's father, does not have the power or the authority to prevent him from doing that, because he's not interfering with the internal affairs. He's doing his own thing. He's not attacking another Lamanite king. He's attacking the Nephites. So we see this very much a feudal type organization among the Lamanites. Anyways, we will leave that here, and we pick it up in chapter 3 next, so I will see you there.